Okay, welcome in. All right, so we're going to start in a supported bridge. And as we add our body onto this bolster, what we do is we want to have it so it's along the whole length of our back. Okay, the back meaning from my pelvis to my upper, right at the top of the back muscles, not into the cervical vertebrae. So I think the main focus on this one is the shoulders and C7, the base of the cervical vertebrae is off the floor. So you do want to have the lower tip of the shoulder blades right on the contour of the bolstered ledge. So sit on the bolster on the very short end. Have your feet on the other side of a rolled up blanket. If you're bordering against a wall, just make sure you have a little bit of space so you don't end up kicking it. Like you're getting into a sled here. Right? So this is kind of the sled pose. Now, as I lower back, I have to admit, I don't really want my back to get achy. So what I'll sometimes do is step one of my feet in, right? So I can help myself lower back with care. And then when I lower back, I'm going to put my head back on so I'm going to keep my one knee bent so I can adjust here. I'm going to have my head on the blanket and my shoulders are right on the ledge of the bolster, right? So I have this ability to open up my rib cage. Okay, now I really like this shape. This is one of my favorite poses, although it takes a while to get all wired into it. The legs are going to stretch down if possible. If your hips don't consider this supportive right now, you can have your knees bending and take time to get here. But here's the thing I find interesting is you do want to be as high up on the bolster, meaning you do want to start sitting. I'll come up again to show right on this short end. Okay, adjust your britches here. Make sure that you really can feel support. You're on the end. And when you lower back, everything's kind of suspended, right, up. Okay, so then as we open up the chest and we give some more length in our spine, this is a shape where you take gravity off the spine. It's a good one. Okay. Now, if you disagree and have a different shape you're going to start in, before we go into inversions, go for it. Whatever feels best for you. You're going to have a sandbag possibly on the tops of the thighs and give your knees permission to relax outwards. Okay, they don't have to point in, stay forward. Just let the arms branch out to the sides and take some time to kind of feel, are your shoulders lifted a little bit on the bolster? Is the channel of circulation in the ribs? And then we start to soften in the psoas. And let the psoas feel the front of the lumbar spine slowly softening. Relax your glutes. Feel that reach through the front span of the body. Arms are open and relaxing the shoulders. And if your shoulders are starting to slide down on the floor, like if you feel the shoulder on the floor, you're too far back. Okay, now I know some of us are modifying with other poses and that's different. But if you're trying the supported bridge, using this to give a deeper stretch into your lungs, relaxing on your out breath, and starting to generate all the feels in the breathing muscles, right? They're definitely pulled in an entirely different way than when you tapped into the class, right? There's no rounding, there's no slumping. There's only the opportunity to elongate the front space and the inner spaces. So landing here for about another maybe minute with this extension. Softening the breath. Feeling that pull of the inhalation, sweeping the lungs. And as you out breath, feel if there's an area in the front space that can soften. It might be just your feet. maybe just your arms, your hands. And as we kind of enter this experience of really evaluating where our circulation is motioning in our practice, that's kind of my favorite part of restorative, right? We're slow motioning. We move into stillness, right? But we're always considering the sequencing and how the circulation matters to benefit us, right? For wellness, right? To and optimize that inner kind of laboratory. All right. Okay, now you can stay with the legs extending, or I'll recommend moving the sand off if you even have it there, right? No requirement. Walk your feet in, knees pointing up. And then just let the back of the pelvis, just feeling that now the tailbone presses down. Of course, you start to slide back a little bit. That's normal. Okay. A little bit of that separation, right, is natural, right, with the body kind of sliding. But let's take a figure 4 pose. So we'll just lift the right leg up and cross that right ankle to the left knee. Right knee opens, and feel how you're landing in your left foot up the left back of the leg into the left hip. I know it's a right hip focused position, but try to keep your left foot on the floor. Just a few moments, kind of analyzing side A, side B. We probably have differences in each side. If we've lived in our body for a while, it's like, oh, that feels weird. This feels a little bit gripped up. And then we'll just switch sides. So right foot steps down. Feel the manner of pressing into your right foot. Lift the left leg up. And then as I shift the left foot to the right knee, how far should my right foot step out? You could scoot the foot toe heel to the right, and then toe heel back to center, and you be the decider. Like, does that help my sensation to try to open up through my inner leg? We want to start really just gradually with the focus on this lymphy area in the upper inner thigh, the lymph node spot. We want to go gradually into circulation there, into the psoas. So take in figure 4 for a few more moments. You can feel how the knee moves outwards. And then let's try cobbler's pose. Now, then I bring the soles of the feet towards each other, the knees pointing out. Feel how the breath maybe is trying to move down. Of course, it has to move to the lower belly because you got a diaphragm and they're moving. But as you're letting the abdomen, and then as you let the exhale release down, right, you're starting to kind of peak a little bit of sensation into the deeper abdominal muscles starting out here. So just a few more moments. And we're starting to go into our inversion, right? Back of my skull resting, chin is slightly lifted, right? C7 is not on the floor. I'm not jamming my base of my cervical on the ground. Okay, and then just let the knees point up, the feet step out, and now is the time to start to slide back a little bit. So I'm going to recommend tiny motions, okay? So I'm going to move my blanket back a little bit so it's just at the center of the back of my skull and back, not under my neck. And then I'm going to walk my feet in, and I'm going to lift my hips up, and I'm going to push back. So now my full neck is on the floor, and I'm going to turn my bolster across the mat. Now, there may be a few of us that are like, to heck with that organization. I'm going to come up and get on my bolster and swing back into my inversion, and that's fine, okay? But I don't recommend doing anything that's going to be alienating to your back tension. So find a way to get the pelvis on the bolster, and you're down on the bolster quite far. So if you're not sure, you do want to have your tailbone right at the edge here. You don't want to have your seat on the other side, but you do want to be about here when you start to bring your feet off the floor and lift up. It'll make a world of difference. If you're far enough down, it will make a world of difference. Okay. All right. I guess I should have put a rubber band around my blanket. Okay, so knees pointing up, Grab a ball. Okay, if you don't have a ball, use a block. Bring it, place it center of the knees. Okay, first things first. Feel how the abdomen, right? You can feel like the center and the sides are getting this interesting pulley. Okay, arms stretch open to the shape of the letter T straight out, and then knees going side to side. And feel how that starts to progress movement across the pelvis. And I might adjust my blanket to move it higher. You might decide you want to fold it once more so it's a little more comfy on your head. But if you're working on that upper spine extension, okay, this is the time to do it in your practice. Okay, so just letting your head relax back, maybe nodding a little bit side to side, and feeling as you coordinate this not super complex movement, right? It's not that complex, but if I let my breath motion with the movement of my knees side to side, it might be a little more challenging. So you might find that in breath when you go right to the middle and you keep going, and then the out breath when the legs and the hips motion to the side. Okay, so starting to line up the pacing of breath sometimes with the practice. So I think of that as one breath per movement. And we can have some opportunities in restorative to do this. Some, not a lot. Movement, breath, with the pace of the hips. Okay, now as you come back in center, okay, let's extend the legs straight up. So we're in an inversion for certain now. And I like the idea of the ball center of the knees and having the legs feel formatively like they're extending, and they don't have to be straight and rigid. So kind of feel for yourself. I know you stand on your feet a lot. We all kind of do. So feel when you're kind of standing on the, in some way, the pelvis, right? It's your center of gravity. It's like, okay, I'm going to orient my coordination on that note. Okay, and that's a pretty wide base, right? It's the feet are separate. They have challenges on their own, and they're just by themselves trying to move you along. So squeeze the ball. Squeeze. If it's a block, it's not as fun. Okay. If it's a ball, it's a little more interesting and engaging because the ball is responsive, right? So if you got a ball, it's, you know, the block isn't going to move in more if you squeeze more. I've never seen a block collapse, but probably there are some foam blocks that do. But when you're squeezing, I want you to bend the knees as you're squeezing the ball. Okay, you can't stop squeezing the ball. Okay, bend your knees. How far should I bend them? Is this enough? Okay. Okay, now feel the tailbone press into the bolster. Okay, feel the knees draw towards your chest. Okay, and there's only so far they're going to go, right? Okay, now as you take the ball out, we're going to get a hold of our belt and place it below your feet, so under the feet. And as you extend your legs up, I want you to take a moment. Let's do some alternating patterns because we had the squeeze. So let's kind of feel, this will be a little study for ourselves. So hold the belt, both hands, and then let the left leg lower down. And as the right leg is lifted, what I want you to do is have the left leg hovering. Okay, I know you're going to have your rear on the bolster. I know that you can't help that. But have the foot hovering off of the floor, just little hover. If you can't hover, just bring it down. But we had a psoas request for class, so we're working on that. All right. I love it when I get requests, and I do take it seriously. Okay, so as I lift the left leg up, I know that could be a little bit of tone here, you know, into that front of the lumbar. Bring the left foot up into the belt and lower the right leg. And you can be really slow with that. You can be kind of fast with it. But as you're reaching with that right leg, extending, you know, one side might feel like there's different, you know, waves of sensation. I think that's That's the joys and the challenges of having a lengthy, many, many years of yoga. You'll go, I'm going to find something new about myself in this practice. So we got different sequences for you. So now that the legs have had some stretch in the front of the hip zone, let's bring both feet up and take a wide leg float, okay? So, you don't want this too wide of a loop for your hips, and be completely realistic here. So if it's like you feel like you're shaking, it's you're really jittery, then make it a little smaller. Okay, so if you can't see, I've got the feet out into a wide stance, and I've got a sense of the back of the pelvis resting. I'm no longer trying to go push. I'm just trying to find that equilibrium with my legs. I'm going to let my feet turn out slightly so I can really amount to that circulation in the upper inner thigh. Yeah. You can even do a little bit of tapping, maybe right up on the inner side of the knee and just towards the center of the adductor. Just a little bit of light tapping, not serious tappement, right, where you're kind of hitting it, just a little bit of tap. Okay. And even just be here with your arms relaxing. Okay. We don't get extra credit if we're tapping. It's just a nice little stimulus, right, for the receptors here on that skin, right, because of those lymph vessels right under. So just a little bit of that right light tapping or brushing, right? And then as you bend through the knees, reach up to the belt and pull so the feet go together, because that's what happens, okay? And the left leg lowers down, and then we motion into a brain float, okay? So I got a big loop. I think a big loop is really good for brain float. Sometimes I make it too small, and then I'm overstretching. So finding out what that means for you is another process. So some of us are just built, we're just a little more, we're just a little more tight. So I would say be good, be happy about that, right? You don't want to focus on flexibility all the time. You want some stability. So I've got the belt behind my center of the back of my skull, and then I'm going to add a sandbag to this left thigh. Now, if you decide I don't want to add any sand, you don't have to. But the sandbag or some weight here is a nice psoas stretch. So when we have the leg lifted, you can do a little nano bend. But for those of us with knee, we all have knee stuff because we all have knees, but the circulation direction here is quite nice for the muscles around it, the bones around it. So just allow that reverse flow, directional flow through the bones, the muscles, the meridians, and just let the weight of your head relax back into the belt. Feeling how your head can lean back. And the essential breath, motioning the belly. And if you can kind of feel where the hamstring, kind of the belly of that muscle is, right? It's likely going to feel like a lot of length and, a little bit of tension to create circulation there. But if you were to bring your hand to the back of the right leg, just like above the back of the knee, you're going to feel where it's, kind of the most power packed, right, area towards the base of it. And so as you're leaning back, right, or you're shifting your head back, you might give yourself a little more slack with the belt, but you are trying to lengthen the leg. So this, I would say, would be a safe thing for the knee because you're not standing on the foot, hyperextending, but trying to straighten it out is a good idea upside down. So reversing that gravitational pull. And just take a few more breaths. I sometimes hold the back of my skull with the belt on it. And then I just really give myself permission to lean back into the belt towards the blanket and just be with the sensation. As is a great thing to do when you're in practice. It's a good meditation, isn't it? Meditation on sensation. My body made that one up. Okay, so a few more moms. Really kind of mark where you want to have that first side kind of really do a little bit of recognition of how far are you up with this leg, so when you go to side 2 you repeat and have as much balance as possible. And do you feel the attachment at the sitting bone? Where do you feel the wave of sensation? We're all a little different. Some of us are going to bend the knee quite a bit, some are going to straighten it. So when you shift out of it, one thing you can do is have the belt the same length, right, for the second side. So I'll just slide the sand off. And then as my left leg goes up, I'm going to hold the back of my head, hold the belt. And then I'm just going to see if I can stay with that length. It might not be possible. Okay, so I feel this side a little itty bit more flexibility, like the belt could be a little tighter, but I'm going to stay the same and see if I can just stay with that balance. Okay, so inverting the leg, right, head back, and then I'm going to add my sand to the top of the right thigh. Okay, so move it on over to the top of the right thigh, the sandbag. Okay, and feel all the feels. Feel all the feels, like the weight, the right buttock, right? It's like, surely doesn't feel like the left one now. Well, it never did anyway, but it feels like the circulation around the rear is quite different on the one side to the next, but it's good to have that, that counterpose. So I just think this is a great way to improve our circulation internally. It's not just the muscles, the bay of the bones, right? It's the lab in the body, our body lab. So as our head leans back into the belt, you get to decide. You need to loosen it. If you need to, you do. If you need to take it off your head and hold it, that's okay. And then you can also hold the belt on the back of your head. If you're just not so certain it's going to stick, it's going to stay. And let your head rest back in the belt. Yeah, start with trust with yourself here. Breathing, and that may mean you shift the pose. There's no regulation. You stay exactly like this. Just get the feel here of the kind of the thigh roots, right? This one, the thigh root, is kind of what I think of as my sitting bone area. But the front of the leg, which is a little bit more dormant right here, because it's the back leg is getting all the energy. But this area is important too, right? They let this slough off. Not any less important than where I get the feeling, okay? So just give it that circulation benefit here. Bend the left knee a little, okay? And then slide the sand off the right thigh. And as I hold the belt with both hands, I'm going to slide it off my head, let my head relax on a blanket, okay? Now, if you need more blanket height, I always want to remind you, when we switch poses out, you might decide, not always, but I'm going to change it up. Feels better. But again, if you feel like, oh my, I'm rounding my neck a lot, not a great thing. So find what works for you, whether the blanket's right at below the occiput. Feel that. Hold the belt now with your right hand. Now that your leg's wondering, did you forget about me? I'm right here. Okay. Hold the belt with your right hand. The left leg crosses to the right. And I would say on this one today, try to let the bottom leg stay reaching down. It may not have the blanket anymore, right? That may have kind of just unrolled, but try to have the leg reaching down so you can't cross over very far. So you're limited now. This is a limited edition hip. Okay. The limited edition hip we have available. Okay. So feel the feels, right? Feel the hip awareness. Now that we're going from hamstring to hip and all the things that connect up. I don't think this is such a psoas experience now. It's kind of hiding it, but it needs to kind of retract and just use the work we did previously to help it in its replenishing psoas and replenish mode here. And then bend the left knee, just a brief moment there, and then come back up and switch sides. So right foot up in the belt, left leg straight-ish down, right, kind of straight-ish, may not be perfect, but straight down. Hold the belt with your left hand and cross the right leg on over. Okay, so I basically have navel center pointing to ceiling. I'm not rolling in my belly to the left like this. Like we will be doing that pretty soon, but we're not there yet. So we're in preschool right now with this. Okay, so feel that crossover. Feel as the abdomen moves with the breath, so it has this resistance with the leg below crossing to the left. Giving you some lower back strength. Just a few more moments. Relax the left foot. And now come back through to center. Okay, and both feet up in the belt. Last one. You decide. Is it going to be the legs are together or are they a little bit apart? You're the decider. Okay. I'm going to try this one. So I have my feet together, legs together, and I'm going to tighten up the belt a little bit. And I'm going to bring my palms together in more of that prayer position in the belt, the webbing of between my thumb and my index, the thenar web space. And then I move my arms to stretch back a little bit. And I'm not going to focus on how far back my arms can go. I just want that traction. And I'm kind of feeling a little bit on the inner glute, which is a little bit odd. I don't think I've felt that before. So new sensations might occur. Take a few moments. Remember, your feet could be out. They could be together. All right. Now, using this as a wave of circulation. So you're going to bend the knees. Try to keep some resistance with the belt. So this is a nice way to do kind of some aerial kind of inversion work without, hanging from the ceiling here. So I think your body maybe doesn't really know the difference, right? I mean, your brain does, but the bones feel pretty safe this way. So when you bend through your knees, you're going to just take your hands to reach, move the belt off, and let's start to come off the bolster. Technically, we're going from another bridge phase, right? We started with the lengthy bridge, and now we're going to I think most of us think of this as our normal bridge. So ball center of the knees, and then as you move your thighs towards your chest, you're going to just push the bolster away from under the pelvis. And now it's like, oh, okay, I got the floor under my pelvis. So I'm going to see if I can work with kind of the nuances of rocking in the bowl of the pelvis. So I would say just minor squeeze of the ball, really minor. So you can feel the sacrum and kind of as you drop into the pelvic basin, the bone. So you're going to feel kind of iliac. And so you're not feeling the tailbone right now. You're pressing, kind of arching. So you could slide like your hand underneath. Right? You have a nice arch with it. Okay. Arms are going to reach to the knees first, the hands to the knees, and then stretch your hands straight up, right from the shoulder towards the ceiling. And now as you push into your feet, which are on the bolster, you're going to lift your hips up and then just lengthen your arms back overhead, but keep that pressure in the feet. Maybe get rid of your blanket for this little phase. And then lower the spine down, arms lower down, hips lower down. Okay, go slow. So when you get that tailbone down, I want you to feel the arch, okay? And then you're drawing the tail towards the bolster, and then lifting up and extending your arms overhead. And then lower down. So drawbridge sequence. Okay, be patient because the arms are super slow. Okay, now once my hands touch down, that's my transition time to slowly arch the spine. Okay, and then in real time, you're going to move the tail towards the bolster and then reaching up. So I don't want you to try to jam the tailbone under, like hook it under. I want you to feel that you're trying to create some fluidity in the pelvic floor as well. Okay, that's another part of this, right? And why I like to do inversions is for the pelvic floor too. So the opposite of prolapse. So if you don't feel comfortable with the ball, like maybe you want to do this without the ball, that's okay. You can try it without the ball and see if that's better for you. But if your legs are kind of waving around and they just can't stay solid, I think a block or a ball between the knees is really nice. Okay, let's take just a few more moments, not a few more drawbridges, but moments. Okay, and then once the tail lowers down the next time, you're going to take the ball and place it at your sacrum. Okay, so base of the spine. If you got rid of your blanket, I would say add it again. Okay, this is going to be nice to have a little height under your head. And then just let your hips move side to side, shearing the sacrum. So feel some glide, and as you press into those nerve-rich tissues, they may not be as nerve-rich as the glutes, which we're getting to next, but start with just that movement, getting the flesh to get pulled. So it's like that's what we do with the softer ball. We're getting the skin to stretch, okay? Skin stretches as I just go across. Okay, and as I get that pressure, that deep touch, just having a little time with this rolling is gonna kind of release those feel-good chemicals, right? The endorphins, serotonin, dopamine, just pressure massage does that, right? Right, so that is gonna release that. So as you start to go across, see if you can just let your hips sway and also include the pressure. So I'm trying to do both at the same time. I don't want to just kind of go back and forth. I want to have it be meaningful for the skin to get that massage. Okay. All right, now move the ball to just the right rear. And if you don't want to grip your glutes when you do this, my recommendation would be let your knees swerve to the left and then just take the ball from the tailbone and move it over to the right rear. So it's just next to it. It's next door. And then your knees point up, and then you actually start to wag your tail and move your glutes across the ball, right? Find that glute zone. So as you're pressing, you're going to feel the end range for you. So some of us, the end range is going to be, we're going to roll, 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 and kind of lean way into the hip bone. And some of us will stay supine the whole time and not do any rolling to our hip, right? We're going to just stay on our back, okay? So use your feet to help you steer this. So the leg that's closest to the ball, the right leg, might lift up. It might lift and circle. I like to just keep my feet on the bolster. I'm content with this. Adding extra things, I don't want to pull anything. I just want to get the satisfaction of the circulation in my dermal layer. That's kind of it. That collagen brush, that deeper pressure, I'm good with that. Doesn't have to be deeper, fancier. I feel like it's plenty of circulation. So once you come off of that right side, just bring the tailbone back to center stage. Take your ball from the right side. Remember, go easy here. Easy does it. Knees are going to go to the right without the ball under, and then move the ball to the left glute. So it's just at the rear, right? You don't want to go down the leg. You don't want to go up the back, just at the rear, and then knee swerve left, and then start to roll. Yeah, some people say, are we rocking on the ball? And I guess we sort of are, right? It's a swaying motion. Everyone's interpretation of what that means is different, I guess. But as you're going across, if you find you get a little bit of tightness in the ribs, this happens to me on one side a little more. Sometimes I'll push and then I have these habits like this starts to grip. So just rest on the ball, right? There's no one says that you have to go fast if something starts to grip up higher on the chain. Just easy swaying motion. Let all your body weight be on the ball. That's huge, right? All of it. Just like try to pop it. That was the one thing I gave Georgia when I met her yesterday for the hike was I gave her a new ball. I didn't give it to her pumped up. I said, you can't take this on a plane, Maybe. Let's make it easy packing. So here you go. An orange one, nevertheless, for October coming up, right? Just in case one of them pops. Okay, so as you glide across, feeling the energy of the pelvic floor working, and this is getting a lot of tone, right? Your hips are getting a lot of tone when you're doing this, so it's a win-win. It's all win-win. And now as we draw across, take a few more glides, and then as you're lowering to the right rear, you're gonna push your bolster to the right side of your mat. I would say kick it over, okay? And then left leg swings over on top of it. Lately, I've been teaching this a little different, where I encourage you to put a block under the short end of your bolster, okay? And then the leg goes over. Now, this is really for those that aren't probably using the sandbag, okay? I think you can add the sand here and the ball, the ball to the sacrum and the block under. But here's how it looks. So I've got my bolster, and it's up on the block, and it just makes it a little easier for your, so it's not gripping you in the back as much. Not everyone agrees with this. Some people think, I never needed it to go that high. I don't know why we're adding this. So you don't need to, but it's an option to try. And if it feels like it's a good feel, then you go with it. Probably those, that aren't really into the sand part of it, but this would be ideal. So the leg basically drapes over the bolster. It doesn't have to look a certain way, but we do want to feel this traction in the leg and into the hip. That's what we're trying to feel. This is not tightening. So if I add a little height, sometimes if I add a sandbag, it can help me release hip and back tension. It adds a nice support for my back to stretch. So now I'm no longer trying to stay navel center up like a few poses ago. Now I'm letting my abdominals twist. So it says revolve core position. Arms are open, shoulders relax, opening the heart, and breathing. And just feeling as you breathe through the nose, where the lower ribs move apart. So let's take a few more moments feeling the ribs moving, feeling the area that is generally, rounded, collapsed, feeling an opening, feeling the intersection between the ribs, spanning with the breath. That's one way they move apart, right, is breathing. One other way would be stretching, right? But sometimes we're left with just breathing. We don't know what our experience is going to be, so we can just feel these feels in the ribs. And meditate, right, on that sensation. As we get ready to shift sides, let's feel what the shift is, right? So if you have a ball at the sacrum area, you're just going to move it aside. Door number one, okay? You got sand, slide it off. And then if you can move that left leg off without too much surprise, because as we get older and then we can feel like the stretch and then we come out, it's sometimes that shifting out that can be challenging, right? In the bone, in the hip and the femur. So I want you to feel like you can move it when you come out. You're not going to stay still and just hold it. You're going to let it move. So you're going to let the feet be about hips distance or a little bit wider, and just let the knees go side to side. Get some movement, get some flow into the area you were just stretching, and then take the bolster and move it over to side 2, left side, okay? And as you feel that shift of the knees and that kind of rub into the glute kind of ledge, glute ledging, okay, glute ledger. All right, and then we get ready for side 2. And what I like to do here is, I generally do this on side 2. I feel my feet, I push into them, and then I move my hips a little to the right. Okay. Side 1, I did that, but a different way. So I just want to include that instruction. So block under the bolster. Some of you were using this. Some may be like, no way am I doing that. Okay, and then you want to twist through the core. So when I have my hips move, then I swing the leg over, and some textbooks call this revolve core pose. Okay, hip crossover, revolve core. Oh, there's a few different ones that you can choose selection of calling it. But instead of name calling, right, we're just going to get the hip to feel that stretch and give ourselves a little time to kind of reflect. If the block under the bolster doesn't work in your favor, you feel better without it, then you just don't use it. It's not like you're a better poser. Okay, it's just different. That's all. So we add the sand if we like it. I think the ball at the tailbone is a nice anchor. And then the arm opens, and the left hand could rest on your breathing muscles. And that could be higher up. It doesn't mean it has to be in this rib cage, but since this area slumps a lot of the day when we sit and we walk and prolapse happens, everything kind of drops. The skin drops. When we're here, we're giving that little bit more elasticity, resiliency in the lungs, right? But also this core, right? The organs, the muscles. Okay, so allow yourself to just feel the weight into that left hip. Breathing slow. And just beginning to transfer the awareness of the pace of your breath to the feel of the stillness of the pose, right? The breath is moving, right? So that's a constant, always. The heart is beating, that's a big movement in the body. But there is a feeling that I'm kind of still. So you want to utilize those movements to help release the tension, right? You got to use them, pair them together, right? Heart, breathing, what you can control. Sometimes it can't be the heart, right? Sometimes that's not going to be controlled. But you're working with the shape and improving circulation in these organs all the way to the upstairs of the body, right to the brain. So that would be pacing yourself and knowing when something's off, right? If it doesn't feel right to do a twist, then you don't. You gotta make those choices. Okay, now feeling a few more rounds of breath. The shoulder on that right side tries to roll down. We're going to encounter that in a few moments sitting up. What happens with our spines, our shoulders when we're sitting. And just feeling any of that area in the hip kind of slough off. Some of the pressure, the tension. Really use that sandbag. Maybe you slide it down, maybe you bring it up, maybe you turn it to get some final kind of traction there in the hip. And now we're just going to change how we're communicating circulation in the body. That's kind of what the pose shift is. So we're now getting out of pose shift when we're reclining. Okay, we've been on reclining pose shift. So we're going to slide the sand off and the ball to the side. And you might want to roll your sacrum again. You might feel like, I kind of like that massage in the tailbone area. You can do that before you come up. You might decide, nah, I'm good. I'll bring my knees to my chest, right? So you decide. So I'm going to uncross. I'm going to bring my knees in. This seems like a good development now for my back. I'm just going to hug the back of the legs and do a little rocking. If it feels like you want a little bit more cushion at the tailbone, you just add the ball, right? And you just roll on that, okay? So you decide. So this would be what that would look like, right? I would just have the ball into the sacrum like I did earlier and just massage it across, okay? Feels pretty good. Okay, now take just a few moments, whether your knees are in, the ball is at the back, or you're rolling. You choose. Okay, but kind of making peace with moving from this portion of the session, right? So as I move up, what I'm going to do is move the ball to the side and very carefully roll to the side. It's much better on my lower back if I just roll in a fetal position to the side and I come up. Okay. All right. Now we're sitting. Now we've come off of that back session. So come on up to the next segment. Take a blanket set. Do you have a blanket set? Is it the same colors? Is it a towel set? I don't know. Probably not. Huh? I think we've referred to it as a blanket set before, but that sounds right. So have a couple blankets, and I would say have them about the height of your bolster when you know. So if you have them in a lower setting, it's okay. This will make it a little more comfortable. So I'm going to sit on my blankets, stack. Okay, make it like stack better. It sounds better. All right, then as I take the bolster in front, I'm going to place my right foot on it, and my left knee is bending. And this isn't always the happiest knee position for people. So please, if it's feeling like, can't do it, let the leg stretch out. Put a ball under it, okay, under the knee. Now, you can also be here and place the ball to the side and under. Yeah. And I say if it doesn't feel good for you to bend your knee like that, just put a ball under it and straighten it out. No problem. Okay. You have to be the one who decides because we're working on this core strength and our lumbar support, kind of our baby back bends, although this isn't a baby back bend, but we're working on that. So if I have my legs straight, I got more work to do in my midsection in this pose. If I have the knee bending, it's actually a little bit easier in this core. So you decide. Okay, take a block. Let's go ahead and take one so you take the block of the wide setting in your hands, then you're just going to extend it up. Okay, so when you're lifting, okay, feel like you're in the Mickey Mouse Club here. All right, so bend your elbows. So the hands move towards the hands hold the block, but your block goes towards your back. I mean, just be realistic. This is not going to probably touch into your back easily. And then as you lift up to work on that joint mobility in the shoulder. Now I want you to do this a couple times. So you're bending your elbows, and I'm going to let my elbows kind of be wide. I'm not going to worry about squeezing them in. Yeah, I'm working on the joint mobility, that's all. And then the arms up. Okay. Now place the blocks on each side of the bolster. You're going to walk them forward, and you're going to lean into it. Okay, now the thing about having this other knee bent, though, you might feel more hip stretch, so that's true. But again, not to the ill of the knee. So I would say the leg that's on the bolster, you want to have it with that enough support. So maybe you bring the bolster closer, maybe you push it away. Okay, you kind of have to play with that and feel like, okay, this is pretty mobile in my hip, although most of us should feel a stretch, right? We should feel a stretch, I guess. We've been should on here. So as you let that right foot relax, okay, lean in, and then take a block with your right hand and turn and move the block behind you, left hand to the right knee, and find that rotation. And now, sometimes you end up pushing on the block and then the shoulder, I'm just showing on this shoulder, it kind of goes up, so no good. Shoulder should be down. So maybe the block has to go lower, okay? But feel and evaluate how the blade moves towards the spine. And then when you move the blade towards the spine, just pretend you can do it. Sometimes just, just go, okay, I feel good. It's going around and back, the lower ribs moving downwards. Then the chest can open. Okay. So I think these are as important to practice for our respiratory muscles. I don't think many of us think of it like this is doing a whole lot, but finding that stability in your guts, right? Literally. I like the leg to stretch out on this one, I think. My left leg. I think I like that. And then as I turn, I try to keep my left foot flexing so my knee isn't turning in and my foot's not turning in. So that's a little workout. Take just about a minute on this one. I think we've minuted it out now, huh? Okay. Now come back forward, bring the right arm over the left, give yourself a big hug, just let it be a hug. Squeezing the shoulders if you can with the hands. Breathe. Okay, and then when you release the hug, you're just gonna bring the right leg out, and if you already have the left leg straight out, you're in it, you're already there. So both legs are gonna be stretching out into a wide stance, V, right? And then as you take the bolster up on its short end, you lean forward. Okay, now, since I'm on enough height, this is working out pretty well, but my knees are starting to hyperextend. So I'm gonna bend them, place the soles of my feet on the floor, and continue that stretch. Okay, so you're trying to keep that reach out of the back. Now, if it's a little achy, the last pose was a lot of work for you in your back, do a little bit of rocking motion, okay? And feel when you're rocking that you're lifting up at the chest on the inhale, and then you're just pushing into the bolster and tilting forward on the exhale. And coming back on the inhale, lifting up and tilting forward on the exhale. That to me feels better than just holding the pose like this. Okay, now change sides. Okay, so some of us are bending into the right leg, and then we'll put our left foot up, and some of us are going to keep the right leg straight. So how about if you got one knee that's challenged and you prefer, I would say keep them even, right? So if your second side, you feel like I could bend it, no, you got to keep it straight just because of your back and the whole equilibrium here. So on this side, we're not going to go with the arm part. This part we did both arms on that last time. But what I want us to do is to take both of our blocks, put them at the highest setting in front. I didn't add sandbag to this one, but you can add a sandbag on the thigh that's on the bolster, the foot that's on the bolster, that thigh. I just want to kind of, not that we're starting in preschool again in class, but kind of build back up to that. Because you want to keep that inner lift going. So if you never add a sandbag to it, that's fine. It's better that you're here, you're lifting, versus you have a sandbag and now you're rounding because you got weight. Never good, right? And that just happens as we get older, right? It just increases. So our chances of rounding are better. So when we lean forward here, okay, feel on this one, get your belt, not that you're forward and your belt's somewhere else. Get your belt, bring it behind you, hold on a little wider than shoulder width apart. So I'm holding the belt, reaching back, and I'm leaning forwards. Okay? Now you could probably see at my neck, right? Cervicals are kind of dropping. So what I need to do is I need to work on this rising up in my sternum. And even if my arms go down, that's okay. My shoulders feel a little more heat now. I'm going to inhale, lifting up the chest. And then as I exhale, I'm going to lean forward. Okay, now I feel that heat in the arms. I'm not going to move them very high because I feel plenty. And I'm trying to feel between the blades down the spine, the natural curve here. So let's say you feel better sitting up taller, right? A little bit more, less leaning. That might be better for some of us to be here. Just sitting up, holding the belt, breathing. Okay? You want to feel better after class, not like, oh my gosh, I did something and it was just too much for my spine. So find what's better for you, even if it's a lot of heat in the shoulders. And relax your grip on the belt and reach your hands on the blocks. Try to keep that inner lift through the front of the spine, right, which is the disc. We're trying to open that up. And then the back is going to be arching, right? There's going to be some curve here. So as I lean forwards, I have my hands on the blocks, I'm reaching, and I feel that left inner thigh work. Now, if my leg is straight out to the side, it's going to be more work for my back, right? If this was in, but if it hurt at your knee, you don't do it. It's going to be a little easier for you to hinge at the hips. You don't have this leg out here that you're trying to keep it contained in your middle. So you might not go as far forward if you've got your leg out. Okay, so feel sitting bones center down. What else are they going to do? Okay, and then turn left. Bring the block under your left hand over to the left side behind you, right hand to left knee. Side two, you might find the block height is different for you. Like, that's always really interesting to me. Like, my hand on the block right now feels just fine. It was lower last side. So my shoulder, I'm trying to move it back towards the spine. So if my shoulder lifts up a little bit, I might just move my block down and pivot and feel, even if it's to create more stretch here. Okay, so you want to feel this is trying to reach. The ribs are rolling towards the spine. Well, they're always attached to it. And then as I let my eyes close, I can feel the movement of my breath in my midsection. Okay, and maybe if you tend to let your chin drop down, just try to hold on to that knee and keep that inner lift with the chest. Feel the pull of that left knee with the right hand. Just feel a little bit of a pull, just the right amount. Okay, and this is going to be a good transition I'm hoping for here. Okay, so feel how you're turning left, right? So you can feel this left side having some rotation. Check, just a little bit, as much as you can breathe into. And then we take a big hug again, opposite arm on top, big hug. Breathe. Okay, now shed the hands down. Carefully move the left foot off the bolster and then move the bolster over to the side. And you're going to move your block off the mat and your ball. Slide down off the blanket stack. Move your belt. Okay, and I want you to have your bolster under your ribs for side stage. So you just push your stack back, turn the bolster onto the side. So this area that we were just twisting, we're going to go right into the side layer of it. So just let it lengthen out. So block on the other side. Maybe a ball under the, where did my ball go? Under the inner knee, right knee. And as I lean in, yes, my sandbag needs to come around too. Drag the sand on the hip. Sometimes just get to the hip is enough. And as I lower down, I need the blanket higher, right? You can tell it's like she's just tilting her head down now. So you can fold it another, and you can pull it a little bit in and park your head on the blanket, fold and reach. Yeah, you kind of have to get to a point in the practice where it has, how the prop setting looks doesn't matter at all, right? You got to feel into it. And if the block seems too low, even if it's at the highest setting, you can add another block, okay? You can also decide, that might not be the best for my shoulder today. Maybe my arm should be down resting on the bolster or across to the hip, okay? The left arm is in the gap between the bolster and the blankets. Nice. And that elongation through the side body. Okay, and you might feel if that left leg has been bending a bit. We just previously in our seated series did a little movements with the knee. You might have to almost straighten out that leg. You might need some more padding under your hip. So if you need to get up and kind of reset your practice space. Okay, and what I find, I have to kind of find how does my left side of my back need to be comforted. So when my leg is pulling up towards parking at the bolster side, maybe my right leg doesn't go as far back. Maybe I bring it in. Maybe I roll the ball a little bit. I know once you get into the good position, usually it's time to get out, huh? So give yourself some time. Breathe. Feel the breath helping you stretch the sides. You really feel the weight of your head rest into the blanket. That's key. You know, if your arm reaching is not helping your neck, you just let it go. Relax it. Okay, now push the sand off. Take a prone pose of choice. That could be child's pose. I'm not going to demo that. I want something super easy on my knees. So I'm just going to push my blankets back. My focus is getting the abdominals to elongate this way. Okay, so I'm going to have, so some people might do child's pose and just love child's pose. There are a few people that just always feel like they miss out on it in class. So I try to teach to knowing that some of us, the knees are not going to like that. So this is kind of a universal, we can do this. Okay, so this is more of a crocodile, but what I'm doing is I have the bolster just a little bit higher than sometimes I have it like down on the thigh lid. You might decide, I don't like that version. Like this is too much of this upper pressure. So if you got issues with reflux and stuff, this is going to be intense. So if this is not your thing, don't do it, okay? But if you need the bolster a little bit lower, that's okay too. Everyone's got their own stuff. Okay, so you can have it higher, you can have it lower. What I want you to focus on is just to relax into the abdominals, breathing. Forehead down. It's just turning the body into this shape. And using the props, the bolster, right, to breathe into it and spread out the abdominals evenly. Right? This is key. We do a lot of shapes that are not symmetrical in this class. So this is a part where you can balance it out. This part, and then we get to the last pose pretty soon. You can balance it again. So relax the thighs, right? You don't want to be too close to the wall, right? You can push the wall, and that can feel kind of inviting. Sometimes I like that extra little lower back strengthener and core strengthener, pushing that my feet, doing a little bit of reach and engagement through the sides of the spine. That actually makes my back feel better. Okay, or surrendering. Okay, now if you have your feet to push back into, whether there's a wall or not, you can hook the toes under and just press back and just slowly start to raise your head up just a little bit. Yeah, so I think as we get older, this is a good thing to come back to is tummy time. Tummy time as we get older, right? Tummy time. So go back to what you did in the early days when you tried to get up off the floor, how to figure it out. Lifting up and then relaxing down. Bring the hands under the shoulders. Squeeze the elbows into the sides, stretch the torso forward. And then coming back. I like that up dog. You might want to stay with that a little longer. That feels good. Because you can tell how it decompresses and it opens up into the front of the spine. Okay? Now, as you come to a side change, our last pose before we go upside down, so enjoy it. Now, I find some days I notice, though, the hip on the base and the leg back, I'm stretching it too far back, so it's like straining here. So there's no need to strain. Some days are like that. You're like, I think the key would be really tune into how you feel. Some classes you're like, I feel, some classes you just follow along. You're not really feeling. So this would be a good one to notice. Fall under the knee. Hey, if your back is sensitive, have the legs stacked in a fetal position. Don't even worry about the leg stretching back. Okay? All right, now I lean in and I get my sand, I carefully cart it over to my hip. And as I lean, my blanket stack, I'm going to have to do it the same as the last side. That's the best way to go. And when I lean in, yeah, this feels a little better on this side, but just noticing there are differences. Strain happens, it leads to things, right? So this is a great opportunity to really check in with yourself. What's feeling what? How is my breath? How is my circulation right now to my heart? Just be present. Okay. And as your left arm stretches overhead, maybe your hand is on a block. Maybe that worked out. Maybe it didn't. Okay, so feeling all the feels. Use the bolster to stretch out your side, the underside as much as the side that's open towards the ceiling. Yeah, I notice this when I work in person with people and I see how much they struggle to try and effort and be stretchy. It's like it's the underside that you're moving the breath into, aren't you, with the bolster? So that begins within, deeper. And then this superficial fascia, what you kind of see is the reacher. This could be secondary focus. You might even start with that left arm resting on the bolster and maybe you reach it overhead. Maybe your shoulder clicks like mine. Spontaneous clicker. Okay, breathing. And if you're lucky, you'll feel this pull towards the kidney, right? You can feel like, oh, this is a nice little kidney massage. It's getting that side. It's just kind of the organ in the back space that, it gets touched by a car seat, like the car, that it doesn't get a lot of, massage with this pose often. So you can feel it right now. Feel the side of the touch of that right side of the back, lower back. It's between the rib and the pelvis is the kidney. Stuck right in there. Good spot. So taking several more breaths here. Breathe in only to recycle, to breathe out all the time. When you feel the weight into your body, notice this is weight we're introducing, right? All the time, kind of weight bearing in the pose. Now, as I take the sand off on this side, I'm just going to kind of start to do a little bit of assessment of the situation to get to inversion. So I bring the left leg to the right, I rotate to the right rib, and then I push to come up. Okay, so this midsection is going to get flooded, right, with circulation when we come to our last pose. So some of us are going to place our body to legs up at the wall. Some of you might do a bolster bench. So if you're a bolster bench, you know, you want that today. You can add your blocks under your bolster, and I would say second or third setting, right? So change the height of them depending on how much of a waterfall you want to make, right? Because you're trying to stimulate that flow and create that inner waterfall in the body. So if I have my legs up the wall, it's going to be, yes, a greater waterfall. That's true. But you're not a better poser. You just have to find out what aligns for you today. So bolster bench or legs up the wall. Sandbag goes there. If you got an eye pillow, use that. And not on the sandbag, but on across your eyes. And a blanket. So if I'm in bolster bench, like I showed earlier, what you might have is your sand from your heart to your belly. Or place it on the shins. Okay? And then if I lean into one side, I'm going to roll on my sacrum to bring the legs up. Okay? To create this waterfall effect. No, it's not, doesn't sound like a waterfall yet. Okay, so I'm going to shift my hips to center on the bolster. I'm not going to worry about getting my seat to the wall. Okay, that's definitely overrated, but some of us, we are naturals at that, and we can get there every time. Some days you might not. So blanket under your head, and a sandbag is offered. Now, if you're, again, a bolster bench, your sand would go heart to belly or your shins, and if you're at legs up, placing the sand perhaps at your feet. Okay, so feel that touch and that pressure, the leg sensation at the back of the leg. Be careful that it doesn't recruit the knee tension here. So what I find is, I think it's just practice and finding ways to make it work for me. So it's a very healthy circulation in the areas that you might have challenges, knees, back, to get here. Okay. Now, if I look at my knees, they have their separation, and the knees are turning a little more out. My patellas are, it's not like an aggressive external rotation, but they're definitely not turning in. And this happens for my pelvis first, right? So you might slide your shoulders back, feel the back of the pelvis, feel how that centers, and that starts the centering to the knees, or do the knees start the centering for the pelvis when it's upside down? Arms open. Eye pillow on if you don't already have that. And then feeling as you center into the movements of your breath. Enjoy the belly actions, feeling them spread, massaging the organs, and simply accessing a deep connection to circulation. Just keep it simple. Okay, evaluate the breath. If you get a little tight in the throat, swallow, clear the passageway. This is putting pressure in that area. It's putting pressure on the endocrine glands here purposely to stimulate circulation. So if you're upside down, you're going to get that. And sometimes you can feel that in your throat. So if you have trouble swallowing, you have difficulties, you might notice that on this, and you might not want to be as far back as this sometimes, some weeks. But eventually we do want to have more flexibility here, the circulation in our throat, the opposite of it drawing down, like when we stand up, it's that sagging, everything drops, right? Inside it does too. So we're trying to tone in this area, toning these areas. Okay. So with that inner tone to the heart and the lungs, resting our face, our jaw. Acknowledge your effort to be here in practice. If you have your legs up the wall, shift the feet away. Feel the back of the pelvis center first. Feeling that weight into the thigh bones, and then it streams into the hips. Feeling that weight bearing in your hips. Soak it up, right? Now, I find what's challenging is to really root my bones. Sometimes I get a little bit cluttered in my thinking of the breath, but kind of root in the bones. This is really for the bones right here with the sand. Root in the bones. If you're going all over the place with the feet, then it's time to get rid of the sand. If it's just too much for you and it's shaky, just get rid of the sand. Now I bend the knees so I can feel from my sitting bone to the back of the knee, that concentrate. Hamstring, concentrate, but it's going to add glutes, hips, and all. Reach up to the sand, be cautious here, and then move it over to the side. And then with the legs getting a hug them. And then as you're ready to roll to the side, whatever position you're in, whether your bolster's under your pelvis or it was under your feet, roll to the side and let your hands help position just briefly to bring you up to sitting. Sitting on your bolster. If you're in the middle of the room, you can sit on a blanket, but take a moment to get your equilibrium here. So with the heart, with that little elevation and that arch right behind the heart, bring your hands to join palm to palm or hands over your heart center. And let's take a moment receiving wellness for the whole community here practicing together. Take a deep breath in. And as we exhale, bowing into the peace within your heart.